The neutral space station Vera Prime floated like a silver star between two great empires. It was a place where many alien species gathered to trade, form alliances, and solve disputes. Today, the station was filled with tension. Humans and the Tavari Empire, a proud warrior race, had been fighting small battles along their borders for months. Everyone feared that a full war would break out soon. Inside the Grand Council Hall of the station, delegates from many worlds sat in silence. At the center of the hall stood Aaron, a young human diplomat. He was not the strongest or most powerful human, but he had a rare gift for listening and calming others. He had been sent here to speak for Earth and to prevent war. His black uniform was simple, without any weapons, to show trust. Across from him stood Princess Nira, heir to the Tavari throne. She wore shining blue armor decorated with gold, a symbol of her people's strength. Nira was tall and graceful, with sharp golden eyes that could make even the bravest soldier nervous. She had been raised to lead armies and protect her empire. To her, humans seemed weak and soft, yet something about Aaron made her pause. Unlike other diplomats, he did not shout or boast. He stood quietly, waiting for his turn to speak, which was unusual in a hall filled with warriors. Beside Nira stood General Korath, a broad-shouldered Tavari officer with a scar running across his face. His voice was deep and cold, and he clearly disliked humans. Korath had been advising the princess since she was a child. He believed the only way to secure their empire's future was through strength and battle. As he watched Aaron, his hand rested on the hilt of his ceremonial blade, a silent warning. The meeting began with tense speeches. A human representative accused the Tavari of attacking a human colony. Korath growled and shouted that humans were liars. The other alien delegations whispered among themselves, unsure which side to trust. The tension grew heavier with every passing moment. Aaron stepped forward when the room threatened to erupt into chaos. His calm voice carried through the hall. "We are not here to fight," he said. "We are here to listen and to find peace. If either side refuses to listen, we will all lose." His words were simple, but they silenced the shouting. Even Nira tilted her head slightly, surprised. Most diplomats used complicated speeches or threats, but Aaron spoke plainly. For a moment she saw something different in him, not weakness, but a kind of quiet strength. Korath scoffed loudly. "Humans speak of peace while their ships cross into our space. Your words are worthless." Aaron did not raise his voice. Instead, he looked directly at the general. "If we are to end this, we must deal with facts, not anger. I ask for proof. Show us clear evidence of these attacks." Korath smirked and signaled to a Tavari soldier, who brought forward a data device. A hologram appeared, showing what looked like human ships firing on a Tavari outpost. Gasps filled the hall. The Tavari delegates roared with rage. Nira's heart sank. If this was true, then the humans had broken trust. But something felt wrong. The images seemed too perfect, too clear. Aaron studied the hologram for a long moment. Then he slowly shook his head. "This is a forgery," he said. His tone was calm but firm. "The energy signatures are inconsistent with human ships. I can show proof from our records." He tapped his own device, and a second hologram appeared. It highlighted tiny details, energy trails, ship markings, that did not match human technology. Several alien observers nodded in agreement. The room fell silent as doubt spread. Aaron turned to Nira. "Princess, I ask you to look carefully. You are a leader. You know what truth looks like." Nira stepped forward, studying both holograms. She realized Aaron was right. The so-called proof Korath presented had flaws. Her golden eyes narrowed. Someone was trying to push them into war. But who? And why? Korath's jaw tightened, though he masked his anger behind a polite bow. "Perhaps there was an error," he said smoothly. "But we cannot ignore the threat humans pose." Aaron met his gaze. "Nor can we ignore the cost of war." The session ended with no agreement, but also no declaration of war. The other, alien delegations left the hall, whispering about what they had seen. For now, the fragile peace held. As the crowd dispersed, Nira lingered near the hall's exit. She found herself watching Aaron as he spoke quietly with his fellow humans. There was no pride in his voice, only determination. She felt a strange warmth in her chest. Tavari warriors respected strength and victory, yet this human showed strength, through calm words and reason. It was different and it unsettled her. Korath approached her. "You saw how he manipulates the crowd," the general growled. "We must not trust him. These talks are a waste. Prepare your forces, princess. War is the only answer." Nira hesitated. She had been taught to obey Korath, but Aaron's words echoed in her mind. She thought of the countless soldiers who would die if war began. "I will consider your advice," she said carefully. "But for now, we continue the talks." Korath scowled but bowed. As he walked away, his eyes glimmered with anger. Deep inside, he began to plan a way to ensure the talks failed. Later, as Aaron walked through the quiet halls of the station, he sensed someone following him. He turned and saw Nira standing there, her blue armor gleaming under the soft lights. For a moment, neither spoke. Finally, Nira said, "You were brave today. Most who stand before our council tremble, but you did not." Aaron bowed slightly. "Peace is worth bravery, princess." Nira studied him, her expression unreadable. "Perhaps," she said softly. "I will be watching you, human." As she walked away, Aaron felt the weight of his mission settle on his shoulders. The future of two civilizations depended on what happened next. In the shadows, unseen by either of them, Korath tightened his fist, ready to destroy the fragile peace they had begun to build. The next morning, the Grand Council Hall of Vera Prime was crowded once again. Delegates from many species filled the curved rows, their voices echoing across the vast chamber. Tension was thick in the air. The peace talks were fragile, and a single mistake could ignite a war. Aaron walked calmly to his place among the human representatives. His expression was steady, but inside, he felt the weight of his task. He knew many did not trust humans, and one wrong word could destroy everything he had worked for. Across the hall, Princess Nira entered with her guards. Her blue and gold armor shone under the lights, and her golden eyes scanned the room with quiet authority. She looked every bit a warrior princess, but her heart was uneasy. She had spent the night thinking about the previous meeting. Aaron's calm strength had stayed in her mind, even though she tried to dismiss it. Beside her stood General Korath, his face set in a grim scowl. He had been strangely silent since the day before, but Nira knew his mind was busy plotting. She could almost feel the anger radiating from him. The meeting began with formal greetings, but it did not take long for tempers to rise. A human delegate spoke about cooperation and trade, but a Tavari elder interrupted, his voice loud and accusing. "Humans speak of peace, yet our border stations remain under attack," he shouted. "Your ships cross into our space without permission. We demand justice." The hall erupted in noise. Several Tavari warriors pounded their fists on the table. The human delegates protested loudly. Other alien races whispered among themselves, some leaning toward the Tavari side, others toward the humans. Aaron rose to speak, raising his hand for silence. His calm voice cut through the noise. "If there are attacks, let us examine the facts, together. Anger will not solve this." Before he could continue, Korath stepped forward, his voice sharp. "We have new evidence," he announced. "This morning, another outpost fell. Many Tavari lives were lost. The attackers were human ships." Gasps filled the room. A Tavari soldier carried forward a device and activated it. A hologram appeared, showing what looked like human warships firing on a Tavari station. The image was vivid and shocking. Tavari delegates roared with fury. Nira's heart sank. Could this really be true? She glanced at Aaron, expecting to see him shaken, but his face remained calm. His dark eyes studied the hologram with careful focus. Korath's voice rose like a battle cry. "This is proof of human betrayal. We should leave these talks and prepare for war." Aaron did not flinch. He walked closer to the hologram, speaking clearly so all could hear. These images are not what they seem. Look closely. The energy trails are wrong. These ships do not belong to us. He tapped his own device, creating a second hologram beside the first. It showed real human ships and highlighted the differences. The markings, the engines, even the color of the energy blasts were distinct. This, Aaron said, pointing to the first hologram, was created to fool us. Someone wants war between our peoples. The hall fell into uneasy silence. Delegates leaned forward, studying the details. Some began to murmur agreement. Nira stepped forward, her golden eyes narrowing. She compared the two holograms carefully. The flaws were clear once she looked closely. The evidence Korath had presented was not as solid as it first appeared. "General," she said slowly, "how did you acquire this recording?" Korath hesitated for a brief moment before replying smoothly. "Our scouts provided it. Perhaps they were deceived." Aaron faced him directly. "Or perhaps someone planted this evidence to frame us." Anger flickered in Korath's eyes, but he kept his voice calm. "Even if this was forged, humans remain a danger. They expand too quickly, taking worlds without regard for others." Aaron's voice stayed steady. "We can address those concerns through dialogue, not war. If either side strikes now, both will suffer." The delegates from other species nodded, clearly impressed by Aaron's reasoning. Even some Tavari elders looked uncertain. The momentum shifted away from Korath's call for battle. Nira's mind was filled with conflict. She had been raised to see humans as rivals, yet Aaron's logic was undeniable. He stood firm without anger, and his courage shone brighter than any weapon. A strange warmth spread through her chest as she watched him. She quickly hid her expression before anyone noticed, but her admiration for him grew. The session ended with no final decision. War had been delayed, but not defeated. As the hall emptied, Nira walked in silence beside Korath. "You saw how he twists words," Korath said darkly. "He seeks to weaken us through lies." Nira kept her voice neutral. "Perhaps he simply seeks truth." Korath stopped walking and turned to face her. "You are heir to the Empire. Do not let a human's soft words cloud your judgment. Peace is an illusion. Strength is our only path." Nira met his gaze steadily. "I will keep that in mind, General." She continued walking, leaving him standing in the corridor, his fists clenched. Later that evening, Nira wandered the quieter halls of the station, deep in thought. She knew Korath's desire for war was dangerous. If someone truly was forging evidence, the entire galaxy could be pulled into conflict. As she turned a corner, she saw Aaron standing alone by a window, gazing at the stars. His reflection shimmered in the glass. For a moment she hesitated, unsure if she should approach, but her feet moved on their own. Aaron noticed her and bowed politely. "Princess Nira," he said, "I hope I have not disturbed you." "You did not," she replied. After a pause, she added softly, "You were brave today. Few could stand against Korath in front of so many." Aaron gave a small smile. "Peace requires courage, Princess. Sometimes more courage than war." Nira studied his face, seeing no deceit in his eyes. "I hope you are right," she said quietly. Unseen by either of them, Korath stood in the shadows nearby, watching. His expression was filled with cold fury. The human diplomat was winning the princess's trust, and Korath could not allow that to continue. As Nira walked away, Korath silently vowed to act. If words could not destroy this fragile peace, then blood would. The next stage of his plan had already begun. The lights of Vera Prime glimmered like distant stars through the wide windows of the station's corridors. It was late, and most delegates were resting in their quarters, but Princess Nira could not sleep. The events of the day kept replaying in her mind. The false evidence, the shouting council, and Aaron's calm voice standing firm against chaos, all of it troubled her deeply. She walked silently through the quiet halls, her guard stationed far behind her. Nira had dismissed them for privacy, claiming she needed time to think. In truth, she was seeking someone. A message earlier had invited her to a hidden observation deck, far from the council chambers. The sender had been Aaron. When she arrived, she found him standing near a wide window, hands folded behind his back. The stars beyond looked like scattered jewels, their light soft and cold. Aaron turned when he heard her footsteps. "Princess," he said politely, bowing his head. "Aaron," she replied, keeping her voice formal. "It is unusual for a human diplomat to request a secret meeting." Aaron gave a small, calm smile. "I thought you might have questions after today's events, and I feared General Korath would not allow us to speak openly in the council." Nira crossed her arms, studying him. "You are bold to speak his name so freely. Korath is a respected warrior. He has protected my family for many years." "I do not doubt his strength," Aaron said carefully. "But strength alone does not always serve peace. Someone is working to turn our peoples against each other. The false recording was no simple trick, it was designed to start a war." Nira's golden eyes narrowed. "You think Korath is behind it?" "I think he benefits from war," Aaron replied. "That does not mean he created the forgery, but he will not hesitate to use it." For a long moment, Nira said nothing. She had been raised to trust Korath, yet her instincts whispered that Aaron's words were true. She turned her gaze to the stars, struggling with her thoughts. "When I was a child," she said quietly, "I trained every day to lead armies. My people believe peace is weakness. To them, a ruler must be feared to be respected. But I have seen too much death. I wish there was another way." Aaron's voice softened. "There is another way. My people once fought endless wars just like yours. Entire nations were destroyed, but over time we learned to build trust. Former enemies became allies. It was not easy, but it saved countless lives." Nira glanced at him, surprised. "You speak as if unity is simple, but how do you convince those who crave battle?" Aaron shook his head. "It is never simple. It begins with one step. Two leaders willing to trust each other even when others do not. That trust can grow and spread." Nira felt her chest tighten. His words were like a light in the darkness, showing a path she had never dared to imagine. She tried to hide her feelings, but her voice softened despite herself. "Perhaps you are right, human." Aaron smiled faintly. "Then perhaps we can take that first step together." Their quiet moment was suddenly broken by distant voices echoing through the hall. Aaron's expression sharpened and he motioned for silence. They both moved toward the shadows, hiding behind a support column. Two Tavari soldiers walked past, speaking in low tones. "The general's plan is ready," one said. "Tomorrow night, we strike the human transport docked at Bay 6. When it is destroyed, no one will doubt who is to blame." Nira's eyes widened. She glanced at Aaron, who looked equally shocked. The soldiers passed without noticing them, their footsteps fading into the distance. When the hall was clear, Aaron whispered urgently, "Did you hear that? Korath plans to attack one of our ships and frame us for the violence." Nira's heart pounded. "If this happens, the council will demand war immediately. My people will be ready to fight before anyone can stop them." Aaron placed a steady hand on her shoulder, his voice calm but urgent. "We must act before it happens. If we can expose the plot, we can stop the war before it begins." Nira hesitated, torn between loyalty and truth. "If I accuse Korath without proof, my own council will turn against me. Many believe only he can protect our empire. They will see me as a traitor. Then we find proof," Aaron said firmly. "Together." For a moment they stood in silence, the weight of their decision heavy. Then Nira nodded, her golden eyes burning with resolve. "Very well. We will uncover the truth." As they moved through the quieter passages, a sudden shadow blocked their way. General Korath himself stood at the far end of the hall, his massive form almost filling the space. His cold eyes locked on them, sharp as blades. "Princess," he said, his voice like iron. "Why are you here alone with this human?" Nira forced her face into a calm mask. We were discussing the talks. Nothing more. Korath's gaze shifted to Aaron, filled with suspicion. It is improper for you to speak without my presence. Humans are skilled deceivers. You should not trust him. Aaron bowed politely, hiding his racing thoughts. I only sought to understand the Tavari better, General. Knowledge builds peace. Korath grunted, clearly unconvinced. Return to your quarters, Princess. We have much to discuss before tomorrow's session. Nira gave a respectful nod, though inside she burned with frustration. Of course, General. As they walked past him, Nira and Aaron exchanged a brief, meaningful glance. They could not speak openly, but both understood the danger they faced. Korath was growing more suspicious and time was running out. Later, in the safety of her private chamber, Nira stood by the window, looking out at the stars. She could no longer deny the truth. Someone close to her wanted war, and only Aaron seemed willing to fight for peace. Her admiration for the human diplomat grew stronger, though she kept it hidden deep inside. Far across the station, Korath stood with his loyal soldiers, finalizing his plans. His voice was low and dangerous. Tomorrow the humans will be blamed. The council will demand vengeance, and no one will dare to question me. The fragile peace trembled like a thin thread, ready to snap at the slightest touch. The next day began with a false calm. Vera Prime bustled with activity as diplomats and guards moved through its shining halls. The surface of the station looked peaceful, but deep beneath that calm, danger was growing. Princess Nira woke early, her mind heavy with worry. She had barely slept after overhearing Korath's soldiers speak of their plan to attack the human ship. As she dressed in her royal armor, she thought of Aaron's words. They needed proof to stop the war. Without it, her council would never believe her over Korath. When she entered the council hall, she found Aaron already there, standing near the humans' table. His calm face gave her a small sense of comfort. They exchanged a brief glance, careful not to reveal their alliance. General Korath entered moments later, his steps heavy and confident. He bowed stiffly to Nira, though his eyes held no warmth. Princess, he said, I have prepared my report for today's session. I expect you will support me fully. Nira forced a neutral tone. I will hear what you have to say, General. The meeting began with routine discussions, but before long, an urgent message arrived. A Tavari soldier rushed into the hall and bowed deeply. Princess General, a Tavari supply base near the border has been destroyed, the soldier shouted. Survivors claim human ships attacked without warning. Gasps filled the room. Tavari delegates shouted in anger, while many humans rose to their feet protesting loudly. The fragile peace shattered in an instant. Aaron's voice rose above the chaos. We did not attack your base. This is another lie meant to divide us. But Korath's voice thundered over him. Enough of your false words, human. This is proof that your kind cannot be trusted. Our people demand justice. He turned to the Tavari Council, his expression fierce. We must strike now before they destroy more of our worlds. Any delay will bring more death. Many Tavari leaders nodded, their anger blinding them to reason. Nira's heart pounded. She wanted to shout the truth, but she had no evidence. If she spoke now, Korath would accuse her of treachery, and the others might believe him. She glanced at Aaron, who gave her a subtle nod. It was a silent message. Stay calm. Watch and wait. Aaron stepped forward, speaking clearly and firmly. If we are to avoid a war that will kill millions, then let us investigate before we act. I will go to the destroyed base myself, with Tavari observers, to find the truth, Korath sneered. You delay only to give your forces time to prepare for another strike. Your lies will no longer save you. Before Aaron could respond, Korath raised his voice to the entire hall. I call for an immediate vote. War must be declared. Shouts erupted. Many Tavari delegates supported Korath, but several neutral species spoke out in favor of caution. The vote was postponed until the following day, but it was clear which side was gaining power. As the session ended, Nira walked quickly toward her private quarters. Her mind raced. She could no longer wait. If Korath's plan continued, the humans would be blamed and war would begin. She needed proof tonight. Aaron caught up with her in a quiet corridor. "He is moving faster than I expected," he said, keeping his voice low. "If we do not act now, tomorrow will be too late." Nira nodded, her golden eyes burning with determination. "I will search Korath's private chamber. If he arranged this attack, there must be evidence there. It will be dangerous," Aaron warned. "If he catches you, he will call you a traitor." Nira lifted her chin proudly. "If I do nothing, I will already be a traitor. To peace, to my people, and to myself." They moved quickly through hidden passages known only to the royal family. The station's vast size worked in their favor, giving them places to hide as they approached the restricted military wing. Nira's skill and knowledge guided them past guards and security doors. At last, they reached Korath's private chamber. She pressed her hand against a scanner, using her royal authority to unlock the door. Inside, the room was dark and cold. A large table held maps and data devices. Nira began searching quickly while Aaron kept watch near the door. After several tense minutes, she found a sealed file marked with the Tavari military crest. When she opened it, her worst fears were confirmed. The orders for the supply base attack were written in Korath's own command codes. The plan clearly stated that Tavari ships would disguise themselves as human vessels to provoke war. Nira's hands trembled as she showed the device to Aaron. "This is it. With this, we can prove his guilt." Before they could leave, a loud alarm sounded. Red lights flashed as the door slid shut. Korath's voice boomed through the room's speaker. "Princess, you should not have come here. Now the truth will never leave this chamber." The door burst open and Korath stormed in with several armed soldiers, his face twisted in rage. "You side with the humans against your own people," he growled. "You are unfit to rule." Aaron stepped protectively in front of Nira. "The galaxy will know what you've done, Korath. Your lies are finished." Korath laughed harshly. "You will not live to tell them." He gestured to his soldiers. "Take the human alive. The princess. I will deal with myself." Nira drew the ceremonial blade at her side, standing tall despite the danger. "I will not let you destroy my people," she declared. For a moment, the room held its breath. Then chaos erupted. Aaron and Nira fought desperately, using their surroundings to block and strike. Aaron's quick thinking saved them several times, while Nira's warrior training kept the soldiers at bay. But there were too many enemies. Aaron knew they could not win by force. "We need to escape," he shouted. Nira nodded, and together they rushed toward a maintenance hatch at the back of the room. Korath lunged after them, but Nira kicked the door shut, locking it behind them. They ran through narrow service tunnels, alarms blaring around them. Aaron clutched the device containing Korath's orders. "This is our only chance," he said, breathlessly. "If we can reach the main council chamber and show this evidence, we can stop the war." Nira's golden eyes blazed with determination. "Then we will not stop until we do." Behind them, Korath's furious roar echoed through the tunnels, a dark promise that the fight was far from over. The narrow maintenance tunnel was dark and filled with the sound of pounding alarms. Red lights flashed along the walls, casting long, shifting shadows. Princess Nira and Aaron ran side by side, their breaths coming fast as they fled deeper into the station. Behind them, Korath's soldiers shouted orders, their voices echoing through the passageways. Aaron gripped the small data device tightly. It held Korath's secret orders, the proof that he had staged the attack on the Tavari supply base. If they could deliver it to the council, war could be stopped. If they failed, millions would die. "This way," Nira said, pointing to a side tunnel. She knew these hidden paths well. As a child, she had explored the station during long diplomatic visits. Now those memories guided her as they twisted and turned through the maze. Aaron followed without hesitation, trusting her instincts. His calm focus steadied Nira's racing heart. Even in danger, he did not panic. It amazed her. Most Tavari warriors would be shouting and swinging weapons, but this human stayed quiet and sharp, always thinking ahead. They reached a junction and paused to catch their breath. Nira leaned against the wall, her golden eyes flashing in the red emergency lights. "Korath will have sealed the main exits by now," she said. "We must reach the central tower through the lower levels. It is the only path he will not expect." Aaron nodded. "We need to move quickly. If he realizes we have the evidence, he will send every guard to hunt us." Footsteps thundered nearby. Nira grabbed Aaron's arm and pulled him into a narrow alcove just as two Tavari soldiers passed. They held plasma rifles and spoke in urgent voices. "Find the princess and the human," one barked. "Korath says they must not leave this section alive." The soldiers ran past without seeing them. When the hall was clear, Nira and Aaron slipped out and continued on their way. As they ran, Nira's mind whirled with emotions. She was the heir to the Tavari Empire, raised to command armies. Yet here she was, fleeing like a criminal, and with a human by her side. She glanced at Aaron, wondering how he stayed so composed. "You risk everything by helping me," she said quietly. "If you are caught, your people may never forgive you." Aaron gave her a small, steady smile. "Peace is worth the risk. If we stop this war, the lives we save will matter more than what anyone thinks of me." Nira's chest tightened at his words. She had always believed strength meant dominance and victory. But Aaron's strength came from something deeper, a calm belief that even enemies could become allies. Her admiration for him grew stronger, though she tried to hide it. "You speak with great courage," she said softly. "I have never met anyone like you. And I have never met a leader willing to challenge her own people for what is right," Aaron replied. His voice was warm but respectful. "You are braver than you realize, Princess." Before Nira could answer, a loud hiss filled the tunnel. A heavy door ahead began to close, sealing off their escape route. "Run!" Aaron shouted. They sprinted forward, slipping through just before the door slammed shut behind them. Nira stumbled slightly and Aaron caught her arm, steadying her. Their eyes met for a brief, breathless moment before they pressed on. Finally, they reached a quiet chamber, filled with communications equipment. Nira closed the door and locked it. "This is one of the old relay rooms," she explained. "If we can send the data from here, it will reach the entire council before Korath can stop it." Aaron quickly connected the device to the system. Screens lit up around them, displaying streams of Tavari military codes. He began transmitting the proof of Korath's betrayal. "Almost there," he muttered, his fingers moving swiftly over the controls. Suddenly the door shook violently, as someone tried to force it open. Korath's furious voice rang out. "You cannot hide from me, Princess. Give me the device, and I may spare you." Nira's grip tightened on her blade. "He is here." Aaron didn't look up. "Keep him back for a few moments, I just need to finish this." Nira positioned herself between Aaron and the door. When it burst open, Korath stormed in, his massive frame filling the doorway. Behind him, two soldiers followed, weapons raised. "You would betray your own people for this human?" Korath roared. Nira stood tall, her voice strong. "I betray no one. You are the traitor, Korath. You have brought us to the edge of destruction for your own ambition." Korath sneered. "Weak words. Strength is what our empire needs." The soldiers rushed forward and battle erupted. Nira moved like lightning, her blades striking with precision. Aaron continued working, focused despite the chaos around him. One soldier fell, then the other. But Korath was far more dangerous. His strength was overwhelming, forcing Nira back step by step. "You are not ready to lead," he growled. "I will take control and our people will rise through war." Nira gritted her teeth. "You will never rule while I live." With a final surge, Korath knocked her to the ground. He raised his weapon for the killing blow, but before he could strike, Aaron shouted, "Now!" He had finished the transmission. The screen showed confirmation that the message had been sent to every delegate on the station. The proof of Korath's plan was now public. Korath turned in shock. his moment of hesitation giving Nira the chance to strike. She swept his legs out from under him and pressed her blade to his throat. "It is over," she said coldly. Korath roared in rage, but before he could move, Tavari guards and loyal to the royal family arrived. They surrounded him, their weapons ready. Aren stood beside Nira, breathing heavily. The council will know the truth now. They will have to stop the war. Nira looked at him, her golden eyes shining. "You saved not only my people but countless others. I owe you more than I can ever repay." For a brief moment, the alarms and chaos seemed far away. They had won a small victory, but the fight was not over. Tomorrow, they would face the council, together. As Korath was dragged away, still shouting threats, Nira and Aren exchanged a determined glance. The next step would decide the fate of two civilizations. The council chamber was the heart of the station, a vast circular room filled with towering columns and shimmering banners of every allied world. Hundreds of delegates sat in tiered seats, their voices rising in heated debate. The tension in the air was thick. Nira stood beside Aren at the center of the chamber, her posture regal and proud. Though she had spent many days here as a princess, never had she felt the weight of so many eyes upon her. She could feel the whispers ripple through the crowd, some voices filled with support, others sharp with suspicion. Aren kept his expression calm, but his mind was alert. He could sense how fragile this moment was. If the council believed Korath's lies, war would rage across the stars. If they trusted the evidence, peace might yet survive. An elder Tavari named Jorah, who served as council leader, raised his hand. The chamber fell silent. His voice was deep and measured. "Princess Nira, you have accused General Korath of treachery and delivered evidence of his schemes. This is a grave charge. Speak now, and let all worlds hear your truth." Nira took a deep breath. She glanced at Aren, who gave her a small, reassuring nod. Then she stepped forward. "Honored council," she began, her voice clear and strong. "My people have long prepared for war with the humans, believing them to be aggressors. But what I have learned changes everything. The attacks that fueled our anger were not committed by humans. They were staged by one of our own." Gasps and murmurs swept through the chamber. Nira continued, raising her chin. "General Korath sought to ignite conflict so that he could seize power. Here is the proof of his deceit." Aren activated the small device he carried. A glowing display appeared in the air, showing intercepted messages between Korath and his secret allies. The evidence was undeniable. Korath had ordered the destruction of a Tavari supply base and blamed the humans. Outrage erupted. Some delegates shouted in disbelief, while others demanded Korath's immediate punishment. But not everyone was convinced. A tall, stern Tavari named Varek stood, his voice cutting through the noise. "Perhaps the evidence was forged," he declared. "Why should we believe the word of a human? For all we know, this diplomat has manipulated our princess." Aren stepped forward calmly. "I am not here to manipulate anyone," he said firmly. "I came only to prevent war. I know I am an outsider, but the truth is not mine alone." "It is here before you," Varek sneered. "Words are easy, human. Loyalty is harder. Would you risk your own life for this so-called peace?" Before Aren could reply, Nira's voice rang out sharp and commanding. "He already has," she said, her golden eyes blazing. "He risked everything to help me uncover Korath's treachery. While Korath plotted to destroy our empire, Aren saved it." The chamber grew quiet. Many delegates shifted uneasily, struck by the passion in her voice. Even those who doubted began to waver. At that moment, the doors to the chamber opened. Guards marched in, dragging Korath in heavy restraints. His face was twisted with rage, but he walked proudly, as if he still believed himself untouchable. "You dare bring me here like a criminal?" he roared. "This council is blind. The humans are our true enemy." Jorah silenced him with a single command. "You will speak when asked, General." Korath glared at Nira and Aren. "You think you have won, Princess, but you are a fool. The humans will betray you the moment they gain your trust. Nira stood tall, her voice steady. It is not trust that defeats betrayal, Korath. It is truth. And the truth has destroyed you. Jorah studied the evidence once more. Then he addressed the entire council. The proof is clear. General Korath has deceived us and sought to lead us into needless war. His ambition has endangered every world represented here. The question before us now is simple. Will we follow his path of destruction, or will we choose peace? One by one, the delegates cast their votes. Glowing symbols appeared above each seat, red for war, blue for peace. As the votes were tallied, Arryn held his breath. Nira's hand tightened slightly on his arm, betraying her nervousness. Finally, the results were shown. A sea of blue lights filled the chamber. The majority had chosen peace. A wave of relief swept through Arryn. Nira closed her eyes for a moment, then opened them, her face filled with pride and gratitude. It is decided, Jorah announced. The war is ended before it begins. Korath shall face judgment for his crimes, and a new treaty will be forged between our peoples. The guards dragged Korath away, his shouts fading into the distance. Nira turned to the council and bowed deeply. On behalf of the Tavari Empire, I pledge my people to this peace. We will rebuild trust and move forward together. Cheers erupted across the chamber. Many delegates rose to their feet, clapping and shouting in celebration. Amid the noise, Nira faced Arryn. For a moment, it felt as if they were alone in the vast hall. This victory belongs to you as much as to me, she said softly. Without your courage, none of this would have been possible. Arryn shook his head. You were the one who stood before your people and spoke the truth. I only helped you reach this moment. Her golden eyes shimmered. Perhaps, but I will never forget what you have done. As the council began preparations for the treaty signing, Arryn and Nira walked side by side toward the grand exit. The path ahead would not be easy. Old wounds would take time to heal. But for now, there was hope. And as Nira glanced at Arryn, admiration and something deeper stirred within her heart. She had found not only an ally, but someone who understood her in a way no one else ever had. The next day would bring challenges, but together, they were ready to face them. The council chambers were quiet now, bathed in the soft light of Veraprime's crystal windows. The tense debates of the previous days were replaced by a calm sense of relief. Across the galaxy, the threat of war had been stopped, and a fragile peace had begun to take root. Princess Nira stood on the observation balcony looking out at the stars. Her golden eyes reflected the countless lights of distant worlds. For the first time in her life, she felt a weight lift from her shoulders. The empire she would one day lead was safe, at least for now. Arryn approached quietly. He had remained by her side throughout the council's final proceedings, offering support and guidance whenever needed. His calm presence had helped Nira face her people in the truth, and now she could not imagine the victory without him. You have done more than any diplomat could, Nira said softly. The Empire owes you a debt it may never fully repay. Arryn shook his head, a small smile on his face. I only did what was right. You were the one who had the courage to speak the truth. I only helped you find the way. Nira turned to face him fully, her expression serious. No, Arryn. You risked your life alongside mine. You showed our people that humans are not enemies. You showed me that strength comes not only from power, but from wisdom and courage. For a long moment, they stood in silence, the hum of the Yao station filling the space between them. Nira's heart was full, and she realized she could no longer hide her feelings. She stepped closer to Arryn. I admire you, she said quietly, her voice steady, not just for your skills or courage, but for the way you believe in peace and hope. I have never met anyone like you. Arryn's eyes softened, and he reached out to take her hand gently. And I admire you, Princess. You have the strength to lead your people with honor and the heart to see what is right. It has been an honor to stand beside you. The moment was interrupted by the arrival of the council's representatives. They came to finalize the treaty, their expressions a mix of relief and cautious optimism. Delegates from Human and Tavari worlds shook hands and exchanged documents. For the first time, many looked at each other as allies rather than potential enemies. Nira and Arin watched the scene together. The princess felt a deep satisfaction, knowing that their actions had prevented countless deaths. The future was uncertain, but at least now it was a future filled with possibility. When the signing ceremony began, Nira took her place as the Tavari representative. Her voice was strong and clear as she addressed the council. Today, we take the first step toward unity between our peoples. We will learn from each other, work together, and build a future where conflict does not rule our lives. Let this treaty be a symbol of hope for all worlds. The council cheered, and delegates from both Humans and Tavari shook hands. Arin stepped forward, standing beside her as a witness and a bridge between the two civilizations. After the ceremony, Nira and Arin found a quiet corridor away from the celebration. The princess turned to him, her golden eyes shining. "You will return to Earth soon," she said. "I should be proud of the work we have done, but I find I cannot let you go so easily." Arin smiled, though there was a hint of sadness in his eyes. "My duty calls me home, princess, but I will not forget this place or you. The peace we have begun is more important than anything else." Nira stepped closer, her voice firm yet gentle. "I do not want you to leave. Stay here, not as a diplomat, but as a friend. Perhaps more. Help me guide our peoples together." Arin looked at her, weighing his answer. He had always dreamed of making a difference, but now he saw an opportunity he had never imagined. A chance to be part of something larger, to build a bridge between worlds. "I will stay," he said finally, a smile spreading across his face. "Not only as a diplomat, but as a partner in this new beginning." Nira's lips curved into a small, proud smile. "Then let us begin, Arin. Together." The stars outside shimmered brightly, reflecting the hope and promise of a future where Humans and Tavari could live as allies. The station, once a place of tension and fear, now felt alive with possibility. Days later, joint teams of Humans and Tavari began working side by side, repairing damaged stations, sharing knowledge, and creating programs to teach their peoples about cooperation. Nira and Arin oversaw these projects, their partnership growing stronger with each passing day. Through it all, Nira often glanced at Arin, a quiet admiration lingering in her eyes. Not just for his courage, but for his unwavering belief that, even in the darkest times, hope and understanding could prevail. Arin looked at Nira in return, feeling the bond they had formed grow deeper. He had come as a diplomat, a messenger of peace, but he had found a friend, a mentor, and something he never expected, someone who could inspire him in ways no other being had. Together, they stood on the observation balcony once more, looking out at the stars. The galaxy was wide, full of challenges and possibilities, but for the first time they faced it not with fear, but with hope. In that moment, Nira and Arin knew that the future of their peoples would not be decided by war, but by the courage to act with truth, honor, and compassion. And as they looked at each other, a silent promise passed between them, that whatever challenges came, they would face them together. The galaxy had a new beginning, and for the first time in many years, the stars seemed brighter than ever.